Rondell shocks everybody in the gym, including me and Mong. Next time down, the guy Slim took me baseline again, but just as he was laying the rock up over the rim, Rondell came out of nowhere and swatted his shot out of bounds. "Get that shit," Rondell shouted as he came back to the ground, wagging his finger. "You done getting them easy ones, Black." Guys on the side erupted, laughing and clowning, calling Rondell Matumbo. "That's it, Matumbo. Don't let anybody come in your house. I see you, Matumbo. Found the fountain of youth out there in Africa, didn't you, boy?" In all the talk, it took everybody an extra few seconds to notice Mong laying on his back on his ground at half court, chest heaving in and out, holding his head. Me and Rondell rushed over and stood over him. I thought about his kidney problem and wondered if he was going to be sick right there on the court in front of everybody. I felt bad for the guy, but I'm not going to lie. I was more worried it was going to get us in trouble. "You all right?" Rondell asked him. He shook his head no, kept breathing hard, and held his arms around his own middle. "What should we do?" I asked him, but he didn't answer. "He all right?" one of the big dudes from the other team said when he got up to us. I looked at everybody in the gym, then back down to Mom. "What's wrong with him?" somebody said. "He catch an elbow?" Slim said. Peanut Butter came over and told everybody to stand back and give him some room. I was so afraid any minute ambulances would come speeding up the gym, or cops. But then Mong sort of got his breath and sat up. "You all right?" I said. He nodded and then turned to Rondell, said, "Sick block." "Thanks," Rondell said, smiling big. Mong held out his hand and Rondell yanked him up with so much strength Mong actually left his feet. "I'm too out of shape right now," Mong said, shaking his head. "You guys play without me." We watched him walk over to the sideline and get somebody to take his spot, but everybody said they were done for the day. Finally, this older black dude with goggles put his shoes back on and said, all right. One more and that's it." He jogged around the court once and pulled the ball out of Peanut Butter's hands, bounced it twice. I watched Mong wander over to the drinking fountain. He looked better, but I still wondered how serious his kidney thing was. For the first time since I read his file, I wondered if you could actually die from having bad kidneys, and what we would do if it happened while we were still trying to get to Mexico. Once Mong was sitting back in the bleachers, we started up again, and Rondell pretty much took over. He swatted another shot, this one off the backboard. He scored a fast break layup with his left hand, pulled us within 4. He stripped his man clean in the open court, raced down the right wing, and did this nasty reverse dunk. I couldn't believe my eyes. I'd read about him playing AAU and his file and all that, but seeing it with my own eyes was something totally different. He was the best player I'd ever seen. Guys on the sideline were going crazy too, yelling and pointing at each other. They stopped calling him Matumbo and started calling him Matrix. He blocked another shot, hit a jumper from behind 3-point range, drove the lane, and finished with the sick tomahawk over 2 guys. After the tomahawk, Peanut Butter pretty much gave Rondell the ball every damn time down the court. He'd dribble down, whip it over to Rondell and say, "Feed the beast." I hadn't even taken one shot, but it didn't matter. Watching Rondell play ball was like watching those seagulls fly through the rain. He didn't even notice defenders draped all over his arms trying to stop him from getting into the lane. And he was smooth, too. This was the most surprising thing. Off the court, Rondell was big and awkward. He moved molasses slow and couldn't read a word you put in front of him. But on the court, nah, man. On the court, Rondell was a damn ballerina. He was valedictorian. Dude zipped up and down the wing on fast breaks like a cheetah, finished at the rim like a bull. Shit gave me goosebumps just watching the guy. I wondered if he could even play in the NBA. It came down to a super close game at the end. We had game point, and they were one behind us with the ball. This guy everybody called Boo dribbled down the court and tried to dump it into their big man, but Rondell stepped in front of the guy and picked it off. He raced down the other way, just me and him, a defender in the basket. Since he was so far ahead of the pack, I figured he'd just flush it home for a game, but he didn't. He kicked the ball back to me, set a screen on the defender, and let me go in for the winning layup. "Game time," Rondell yelled as my shot kissed off the glass and fell through. And then his ass came over and boosted me in the air, yelling, "That's my boy Mexico right there. Pack your bags, fools." The guy genuinely acted like I'd just done something special when really it was him the whole time. He single-handedly won the game for us. Mong came jogging over from the bleachers and slapped the hell out of both of our hands. I'd never seen Mong so excited since I met him. He kept petting Rondell on the back the whole time we were walking back to where our stuff was, in the bleachers. "You can really play," he said to Rondell. "Amazing skills. You see the looks on those guys' faces?" Mexico hit the game winner, Rondell said. I know, Mong said, turning to me. You played great too. Amazing. Some of the other guys chimed in. Once we all sat down in the bleachers, they asked Rondell where he played and who was his AAU coach. And when Rondell said he didn't play anywhere, they all looked at him like he was crazy. I can't play, he said. Why not? Peanut Butter said. 'Cause us three's in a group home, Rondell said. Or at least we was. We just broke out 2 nights ago, and now we on the run to Mexico where we could fish. Me and Mong stared at Rondell with our mouths hanging open. What can I tell you, man? Rondell definitely wasn't no ballerina off the court. Today, Peanut Butter said. Yup, Rondell said, turning to me and Mong. When he saw the look on our faces, though, he realized he said something wrong and blurted out, but my name ain't Rondell, though. It's something else. The conversation didn't go any further because when I stuck my hand in my bag, I couldn't find the leather petty cash envelope. I dug all around. Nothing. Ripped it open all the way. My stomach dropped. Yo, the petty cash, I shouted at Mong. Somebody took it. Mong looked at me, and then we both glanced toward the door, where these 2 dudes in jeans and Timberlands were just sneaking out of the gym. Hey, Mong yelled. One of them turned to look at us. Then they both took off running. Me, Mong, and Rondell sprinted after them, some of the guys in the gym trailing behind us. We sped through the double doors and into the parking lot. It was so damn bright outside I could hardly see. Me and Rondell weaved in and out of cars after the guys. Mong darted off toward the exit. We were just closing in when one of the guys stopped, threw a wild punch that grazed my ear, and then shoved me back at Rondell. Both of us fell over each other to the asphalt. Blood started coming from my scraped elbows, but I sprang back up and threw a punch right back. He ducked it, slugged me in the stomach, and cracked me in the mouth. When I opened my eyes, I was on the asphalt again. No memory of falling, head spinning and mixed up and blood dribbling out my nose and mouth. Rondell grabbing the guy in a headlock, squeezing, pounding him on the top of the head again and again. The guy slipping, Rondell taking off on foot again. Rondell pulled me up by my sweatshirt and we raced after, but they were too far ahead now. All we could do was slow up and watch as they sped around the last rows of cars toward the parking lot exit, my face stinging and heart pounding, dizzy like I just stepped off a merry-go-round. But Mong came out of nowhere. He leaped in the air, kicked the first guy square in the chest with both feet. They tumbled to the ground, Mong up first. The second guy grabbed him, pinned him under his arm, squeezed his shaved head. But Mong spun out of his grasp, delivered 3 lightning-quick punches, boom, 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 all to the guy's face. Timberland went down on one knee and reached up to touch his bloody mouth. The first guy was back. He threw a wild right at the back of Mong's head, but Mong ducked it, turned and caught the guy with an uppercut to the chin. Small Chinese kid putting a guy twice his size on the ground, one shot. Then Mong reached down and took the guy's head in his hands and bit into his face. Sickest thing you could ever witness, the flesh breaking in his teeth. Rondell and me racing toward them. The guy screams, and blood spewing out in every direction down the guy's chest and Mong's face and clothes, splattering across the asphalt in stringy lines. The guy cupped his bloody cheek in his hands and screamed in short bursts, a high-pitched squeal, then silence, a high-pitched squeal, and then silence. Mong pushing him down, kicking him in the back of the head, dull thud, and more blood flying, and his body sprawled across the asphalt on his stomach and then curling up, holding his head and face and still screaming. Mong turned to the other guy, booted him in the ribs and the back of the legs and the ribs again. The guy huddled there on the ground, protecting his head and face with his arms, fetal position. Me and Rondell finally made it to them. Some of the guys from the gym, Peanut Butter and Slim, held down the Timberland guys. Someone flipped open a cell phone and called 911. I wiped blood off my own face, reaching into the screaming one's bags, my eyes darting all around me. I pulled out the leather petty cash envelope, unzipped to make sure the money was still there, zipped it back up. I turned to the screaming guy whose face Mong had bitten. He was holding his hand to his bloody face and kicking now, like a kid in a tantrum. A chunk of hanging flesh he was trying to push back into place. My stomach turned over like I might be sick, but I wasn't. My eyes blurred and stung. I moved quickly toward Mong, who stood breathing hard, his head turned slightly to the side and smiling, like he was admiring a painting in a museum. He looked more psycho than I'd ever seen any human ever look, his eyes bulging and red with hatred, but at the same time smiling, chest heaving in and out, but calm somehow also. We gotta go, I said. Mong didn't move. I put my hand on his shoulder, said, Mong, come on, man. I half expected him to throw a punch at me too, but he didn't. He turned around, wiping the guy's blood off his face with the sleeve of his sweatshirt and spitting on the ground. He took my arm and looked at my cut, said, "You okay?" I nodded, staring in his eyes. Something different about this Mong. His eyes still crazy, but everything else too calm for what he'd just done. Nobody could be that calm, like he'd already forgotten what happened. "We should go," I said. He nodded. "Should wait for the cops," the guy with the cell phone said. "Press charges," somebody else said. "We can't," I said. Then everybody was talking at once, and the second Timberland guy was off the ground yelling at Mong, and two guys were holding him back, and my head was so loopy from getting punched I couldn't think. Just knew that we had to be out of there before the cops came. I grabbed Mong and Rondell by their sweatshirts, and the three of us ran back to the gym to get our bags off the bleachers. As we were leaving, sirens wailed in the distance, coming toward us, and this long, lanky guy stepped in front of me and said, "Y'all got any transportation?" We shook our heads. "Come on then," he said, waving for us to follow. "Let's get y'all out of here." We went down the parking lot a ways to an old Buick. He keyed open his door, and we all climbed in, and he turned around to face us, said, "So where you want to go?" Rondell looked at me, and I looked at Mong. "Can you take us to Malibu Beach?" Mong said, glancing down at his swollen right hand. "We on our way," the guy said, flipping it into gear. It was the first time I'd felt relief since the petty cash got swiped. I reached in my bag and squeezed the envelope to make sure I still had it, tried to calm my breathing. Just as we were pulling out of the parking lot, we saw two cop cars speeding the other way, with their sirens wailing. Me, Mong, and Rondell spun around after they passed us, watched them scoot into the gym parking lot. "I'm Dallas, by the way," the guy said. We turned back around, and I thanked him for giving us a ride, and Mong and Rondell did too. He nodded in the rear view, told us, "I spent 2 years in a group home when I was a kid. Whole time I wanted to break my ass out, but I was too scared. Least I could do was help somebody else." He turned on his car radio and tuned in an old Motown song. Started singing the words. Me, Mong, and Rondell looked at each other, still breathing hard. I reached up and touched my face where I got punched. Checked my nose, didn't seem to be broken. All my teeth were still there, but my lip was split pretty bad. I knew it would swell up huge by tomorrow. But I got off cheap considering how big the guy was. I always forget how much it hurts to get punched in the face until it happens again. I glanced over at Mong. The Timberlands dude, blood still all over his face, the nasty scars on his cheeks, and he had that calm face still. I wondered how a skinny little Asian kid could beat up two big black dudes like that all by himself. It didn't even seem possible. It wasn't like he was doing crazy martial arts moves either. He was just scrapping like any other kid would. I looked out the window again as Dallas drove his Buick through the yellow light towards Malibu. I reached into my bag, fingered the petty cash envelope again. Then I reached up to touch my split lip. The bleeding had stopped, but it was already getting big. Me and Mong sort of looked at each other, then looked away. And the whole time, Dallas kept right on singing with the song on the radio, like nothing had even happened.